Hey, what's up everybody? It's Luke, and you're watching Luke the Gathering. Thanks for checking out the channel and visiting. I really appreciate it. Today was a glorious day. I got to draft 2 days in a row. So Friday Night Magic got a draft, and my local game store, Davis Cards and Games, they are having a budget discount draft on Saturdays now. They used to have it on Monday. I think a lot of people couldn't make that day, and so they're looking for other days to do it, and Saturday happened to be the day. I'm really busy on Saturdays, typically. Family things to do, or a lot of jobs that happen on Saturday. But this Saturday, I got a chance to go to Davis Cards and Games and play Strixhaven draft. They're going to go through, I think last week was Theros, and they're going to just go through, I don't know, a history of drafts. They didn't do Call Time because Call Time was actually before Strixhaven, but they didn't do that because I think they were missing. They couldn't get their hands on Call Time at the time, and then they had a Theros box. So they did Theros last week, but this week was Strixhaven, and it's really cool. If you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you might know that Strixhaven was actually my very first set that I got into Magic with, and so it definitely holds a dear place in my heart. And man, I remember drafting it a couple years back, and I just really just jumped into Magic, and I had a hard time. I didn't win hardly ever at all. The decks I drafted, I think, sucked. I remember drafting a lot of Boros, which is a red-white, which in Strixhaven is called Lorehold, and so I learned all the Lorehold, Witherbloom, Prismari, Quandrix names, and then that was way before I learned Izzet and Golgari and all these traditional Magic names for color pairs. But yeah, I didn't draft well, and so this was a great opportunity to actually draft the set with a little bit more drafting experience under my belt, a little bit more Magic experience under my belt. And so I think I drafted a deck that's completely different than anything I would have drafted back then. Back then I was trying to draft things with higher power, or, in terms of, not in terms of card power, but in terms of just power and toughness, that kind of power. And it didn't work well because people were outvaluing me and just beating me with decks that were just constructed better. People who play Magic, of course, you know how to construct a deck, and I didn't, but it was still a ton of fun, and whenever I won, I felt really great because it hardly ever happened. But I did get to draft a Simic deck, which is, of course, Quandrix in this set, and Simic is blue and green. And I don't think it was a color that I drafted very often. In fact, when I was drafting this set way back when I did play Strixhaven, because I always felt like blue and green, a lot of spells, especially blue, it's a harder color to play. I feel like it's more challenging. But now that I have a little bit more of a grip around the set and the mechanics, I feel like, hey, I can do this. In any case, I went 2-1, not bad. The one round that I lost was to Zoe, and Zoe played fabulously. She drafted a Silver Quill deck, and I won the first game, but in the next 2 games of that round, she just really got all the creatures out, rolled over me, because mine's about sort of stalling and trying to get these big creatures out, especially fractals, what I'm trying to get out in terms of my creatures. But then, I didn't have enough removal, I didn't have enough things that would just stall her out, and eventually, just en masse, that she was able to aggro me out, which I think is what Silver Quill's goal is to do anyway, so she played really well. The next couple games were also really well played. I was able to sort of enact my game plan of stalling out my opponents, and then just using fractals to just be way bigger than things that they could possibly block. And I had a number of fractals, so they just kept coming back. It was fun to see the opponents spend so much effort to get rid of a fractal just to have another one come back. And so let's take a look at the deck. I also have a few prize packs to look through. We got a Zendikar, Rising, Call Time, and a March of the Machine promo pack that was given out during the little tournament today. So let's look at the deck and then check out the packs. All right, well, here we go. We have Quandrix Campus. These were the dual lands that were common to the set. These are common cards. What these do is they provide two colors, green and blue, in terms of Quandrix. They come in tapped, which of course is an issue with them. But you do get the two colors. But I really like that for 4 mana, you can also tap it to scry 1. And so when you have extra mana, and there was one game where this came in really useful, where I had extra mana laying around, and being able to scry is just a wonderful thing. So I ended up drafting 2 Quandrix Campuses. It was nice. Snow Day. This was a card that I got to use once. It's a 6 mana card. I mean, that's a lot of mana. But what it does do is it taps 2 creatures, effectively putting stun counters on them. They didn't have stun counters in this set, so they just kind of wrote it out the way that stun counters work. That the creatures don't untap during the controller's next untap step. The cool part is you get to draw 2 cards, then discard a card. And so there's a lot of things that this card does, but of course it does cost 6 mana. So if you get it early in your hand, it kind of sucks because it's not going to do anything for a long time. Frost Trickster, love this guy. 2/2 flyer. When it ETBs, tap target creature an opponent controls and effectively put a stun counter on it. This was great. I was playing this guy who was in Lorehold, which is Boros, and he got a 4/3 out pretty quick. And this just tapped it down, and I didn't have to worry about it for a little while. And I had some other cards, which I'll share with you, that really kind of stopped me from getting a lot of damage and actually helped me get cards to win the game. Burying Books. This is a card, actually, I don't know if I ever drew, but it's sort of like a put the creature back into the deck sort of thing. Not bad. You get a 2 mana sort of discount if it targets an attacking creature. Instant speed. Burog Befuddler. I actually really like this card, especially playing against some of those Boros Lorehold guys with 1 defense. A lot of them had like 2 attack, 1 defense, or like double striking 1/1. The thing about the Burog Befuddler is he flashes in, so they don't even see him coming. And if it's like a 1/1 double striker, like they have in red, there's a red guy that's like a 1/1 double striker. He double strikes 0 damage to you because you made him -1, and then the Befuddler kills him. Does that for a number of creatures as well. Wormhole Serpent at 4/1. I had this in my hand a lot, and never ended up really using it, but this was sort of top end of the curve for me. Curate, this was good. Anytime you get to look through the deck, draw a card is wonderful. There were turns where, well, this wasn't one of the helpful cards for those turns, and I'll describe them later, but there were times where like I was really needing lands or I wasn't wanting lands, and Curate sort of just smooths that out for you. Plus, being in blue-green, it's a spells matter deck. It's not just red-blue, is it, or Prismari that really depends on spells. But this deck actually wanted a lot of spells in the graveyard. Here's a Prismari card, but I did take it for myself because I can use 2 blue to cast this, and what it does is it copies the next spell I cast, as long as it's an instant or sorcery. And I would do this to cast like fractal making things, which then I would have 2 of them, and then it's just kind of brutal. Really great. I use that well. Vortex Runner I didn't really use much. Didn't get a lot of play. Cram Session was fine. This is a Witherbloom card, but because I was in green, I could pay 1 in a green, gain 4 life, and learn. And I'll show you my lessons that I drafted afterwards. But that worked out well. Symmetry Sage didn't really come into play too much. Reject was great. I stopped Killian from coming down. I actually think that's what won me that particular game. My first game, first round. They played Killian on turn 2. I rejected it, and then I won the game. In the other ones, they actually had a card in their hand where they could pick a card, sort of like Torment of Golem in Lord of the Rings, and got rid of a card of mine, and it was reject. They didn't want to get rejected, which I totally understand. Scourge Colony. If you have 8 lands, this gets to have +2/+2. I had a hard time actually getting 8 lands, even though I definitely have cards that would help you get there. Pop Quiz was nice. Draw a card, learn. Arcane Subtraction. This was actually really nice for me. 1 in the blue. Target creature gets -4, -0, and then you get a learn, which means you get to get a card out of from the sideboard, in essence. And so, as long as that card says lesson on it. So Arcane Subtraction, gives creatures -4. Very useful. I told you about that 4/3 red, fuming guy that was attacking me. I did this to him twice, and it's prevented a lot of damage. This was great. Emergent Sequence is really cool. It says search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped. So you get that land right on the battlefield. And and then it becomes a green-blue fractal creature, but still land. It gets +1/+1 counter for each land. So usually it's a 2/2. When this comes in, long story short, it's like a 2/2 land that comes into play that's tapped. Hard to get more than that. I'm not even sure what other cards would help you put lands, directly into play. But this was great because, oh man, there's so many times where I was mana screwed, but I had cards like this that sort of tutored out a land, and it was tremendously helpful. Here's another Arcane Subtraction. Leyline Invocation. Here's a Lands Matter card where, you get to make a blue-green fractal token for however many lands you have. And so this got up to like 8/8, I think, at one point, which was cool. Aether Helix was a great removal spell. You just return a card to their hand. You can actually take a permanent from your graveyard back into your hand. It is expensive, though. 3 and 2, so 3 and a blue-green. But this card was really handy. Won me my last game in my last round. Needlethorn Drake, it's cool. 1/1 Death Toucher, just really nice guy that prevents some of your opponent's bigger creatures to attack you because they don't want to just get killed by a little Death Toucher. Here's another Leyline Invocation. Again, talked about that. Befuddler talked about that. Here's Serpentine Curve, and this is one that has to wait a little while because you need to have instants and sorceries in the graveyard before this becomes kind of relevant. The nice thing is you get a fractal with, however X is, where X is the number of instant sorceries in your graveyard, +1, and then pretty cool. Devouring Tendrils is like a fight spell. It's really a punch spell. It punches them, and then you can get 2 life if they die. And then the Wrangler, it's a 3/3 Magecraft thing. I got it out once, but that's it. This card didn't really see much play. Sideboard-wise is important because of the lessons. In Strixhaven, you have lesson cards. Here's one. Fractal Summoning. Again, making fractals. Opponents hate these. I also was able to grab an Expanded Anatomy. This came in handy once. Environmental Sciences was huge. I got mana screwed so many times, and luckily I was able to, do the trick where you subtract 4 and learn a lesson, and I'd always grab Environmental Sciences first because you get a land, and then suddenly you don't feel as bad with your land there. And then you also gain 2 life, which is cool. This one I never used. It's an uncommon Mercurial Transformation. Turns something, and it's at sorcery speed. That's why it's horrible. It turns something into a 1/1 or a 4/4. You can turn your own thing into a 4/4 attack, I'm guessing, and their opponent's thing into a 1/1, and so they don't really want to block with it. It's only till end of turn, so I don't know. If it was permanent, I think this would be so much better. I had 2 of them. And then I had Introduction to Prophecy, which is pretty expensive, 3 mana, scry 2, draw a card. I just had another Arcane Subtraction, but it wasn't in. The rest of the sideboard sort of looks like this. Nothing really crazy. Snow Day, again, expensive. I could have put an Elemental Summoning in, but I didn't do that. Man, that's like a 5-drop. Wow. And so these were the things I drafted. Yeah, it was a great time. I really loved it. But let's go to the packs and see what we get out of here. First, it's a draft booster of Zendikar Rising. So not a set booster. Actually got tons and tons of Zendikar when it came out. Ooh, we got a nice full art land. Common foil Canopy Baloth. And we got a MDFC. This is sweet. Valakut Awakening. It says, put any number of cards from your hand at the bottom of the library. Draw that many +1. So it's a nice little card there. And you can also use it as sort of a red source. Cool. Modal land at rare. And the rest of the pack are just commons and uncommons. Nothing that I would worry too much about. Zendikar Rising, I don't think is the best, so I'm glad I got a dual land, or a double face land, which is actually, I think, one of the best things you can get out of the set. So, Kaldheim, we got a snow-covered swamp. Oh, we got a Saga, Raven's Warning, out of Kaldheim. Not a huge fan of the rare Saga there. Bound in Gold, it's an interesting card. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so there we go. Nothing great in the Kaldheim at all. But let's go to the March of the Machine promo pack. See what we can grab out of this. Oh, Sunfall. That's a really great limited card. Maybe it'll be good in Commander. I'm not sure. But that's sweet. We got a Sunfall, Norn's Inquisitor, and Zergo and Ujutai. So Mythic. We got... Yep, that's one Mythic. The other one was rare. So there we have it. Here's a code, I guess, if you want that. You can use it. Thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time.